Welcome to my channel of Gil Master Stories. Don't forget to subscribe button and press on the bell icon for more inspiration and mind-blowing stories. They laughed as they destroyed a disabled veteran's car. They thought they could get away with it until justice struck back in a way they never expected. On a sunny afternoon, Henry Carter, a black disabled veteran, arrived at a local grocery store parking lot. His car, a modest gray sedan, bore a veteran's emblem and a handicapped placard hanging from the rearview mirror. Henry parked in a designated disabled spot close to the entrance, seeking a quick trip inside to pick up his prescriptions. The routine task was supposed to be simple, but today was far from ordinary. Henry stepped out of the car, leaning on his cane as he carefully adjusted his balance. He wore jeans that concealed the prosthetic leg he had relied on since losing his real one in the line of duty. Years of discipline had taught him to embrace challenges with dignity, masking his struggles behind a calm demeanor. But he immediately sensed unwelcome attention across the lot. A group of four well-dressed individuals stood by their vehicle, sipping iced coffee and laughing among themselves. Their chatter came to an abrupt halt when they noticed Henry, one man tall and wearing sunglasses, sneered loudly. "Look at him, faking a disability to snag a good parking spot." His voice was sharp-laced with vision enough for Henry to overhear. Another chimed in, her designer jacket glinting in the sunlight. "Bet he bought that placard online." Typical. Henry froze for a moment. He had faced judgment before, but rarely so openly. He took a steadying breath, choosing not to react. Years of service had taught him patience, but this felt different. He walked toward the store, their mocking laughter trailing behind him like a shadow inside the store. Henry tried to shake off the sting of the encounter. The cool air was a welcome distraction, easing the tension that clung to him like a heavy coat. He focused on his shopping list, milk, bread, and his prescription for managing nerve pain. The voices from the parking lot still echoed in his mind, but he reminded himself that he didn't owe anyone an explanation. His service, his sacrifice, and his daily battle to live with dignity were not up for debate. By the time he reached the pharmacy counter, a sense of relief began to replace his frustration. The clerk greeted him warmly, recognizing him as a regular. Small kindnesses like this always reminded Henry that not everyone was quick to judge. As he collected his medication and paid for his groceries, he felt a spark of hope that the day might end without further incident. However, that hope was short-lived. When Henry returned to the parking lot, his heart sank. His car, once a source of pride and independence, was now defaced. Splotches of eggs and streaks of what looked like spray paint marred the windshield hood and side mirrors. Broken eggshells littered the ground around the car, and the acidic smell of the mess filled the air. Across the lot, the same group stood together, laughing openly. One of them, the tall man in sunglasses, pointed at the car with a smirk. "Looks like your car's having a rough day, old man," he called out, his voice dripping with mockery. "Maybe you should park where you actually belong." Henry's hands tightened around his cane. His military training urged him to stay composed, but anger churned within him like a storm. He looked at the group, their arrogance feeding on the humiliation they'd caused, and took a step forward. His voice, though calm, carried the weight of his hurt. "Why would you do this?" he asked, locking eyes with the tall man. The group laughed again, their cruelty amplified by numbers. "Because you're a fraud." The woman in the designer jacket scoffed, sipping her coffee. Henry's question hung in the air, unanswered but heavy with meaning. The group's laughter echoed across the parking lot as if his words had only added fuel to their mockery. The tall man stepped closer, his smirk widening as he pointed toward Henry. "The only fraud here is you taking up space meant for people who actually need it." His words were like a blade slicing at Henry's dignity. The woman in the designer jacket chimed in, "You don't look disabled to me. You should be ashamed." Henry clenched his jaw. The calm Exterior he worked so hard to maintain, beginning to crack, but before he could respond, a familiar voice called out, "Dad, what's going on?" Here it was Lucas Carter, Henry's son, who had just arrived at the scene dressed sharply in a crisp shirt and tie. Lucas had come to meet his father for lunch. His eyes quickly darted from the vandalized car to the smug faces of the group standing nearby. The realization of what had happened hit him like a tidal wave. "Who did this?" he demanded, his voice steady but filled with restrained fury. The tall man scoffed, gesturing lazily at the mess. "What's it to you? Maybe teach your old man not to steal parking spots." Lucas stepped forward, standing protectively in front of his father. His piercing gaze swept across the group. "Do you have any idea who this man is?" he began, his tone sharp and commanding. "This is Henry Carter, a decorated veteran who lost his leg serving this country, and you think you're entitled to judge him based on what you see?" The group faltered, their laughter dying down as Lucas's words cut through the tension like a knife. The woman hesitated, then muttered, "We didn't know." Lucas didn't let her finish. "You didn't care to know. Instead, you vandalized his car and hurled insults at him, all because of your assumptions. That's not just wrong, it's criminal." At that moment, the wail of approaching sirens filled the air. A police car pulled into the lot, and two officers stepped out. Lucas turned to his father, his voice quieter. "Now let me handle this, Dad." As the police officers approached, the tall man strode forward, ready to spin his narrative. "Officers, this guy's been faking a disability to park here, and when we called him out, he threatened us. Look at the mess he made." He gestured toward Henry's vandalized car with feigned indignation, trying to shift the blame. Henry remained silent, his grip on his cane tightening. Lucas, however, stepped forward calmly. "That's not what happened," he said, his voice steady but firm. "This man is my father. He's a decorated veteran who lost his leg in the line of duty. That mess, it's the result of their actions." He pointed at the group, his eyes blazing with restrained anger. One of the officers, Detective Olivia Brooks, studied for a moment before addressing him. "Do you have proof of what you're saying?" Lucas nodded. "Yes, ma'am." He gestured to his father. "My father has his military ID and a valid handicap placard, and if you check the store's security cameras, you'll see exactly what they did to his car." Detective Brooks turned to Henry, who quietly rolled up his pant leg to reveal the gleaming metal frame of his prosthetic. The parking lot fell silent. Even the group, now visibly nervous, exchanged uneasy glances. The tall man took a step back, his bravado beginning to crumble. "We didn't mean any harm," he stammered, his earlier confidence replaced by fear. "It was just a joke." "A joke?" Lucas snapped, stepping closer. "You call vandalizing a veteran's car and insulting his dignity a joke?" Detective Brooks' raised her hand, signaling Lucas to stop. Turning to the group, she said, "What you've done here is a crime, vandalism and harassment. You'll all need to come down to the station for questioning." She motioned to her partner, who began reading the group their rights as they stood in stunned silence. As the group was escorted away, Lucas turned to his father. "You didn't deserve any of this," he said quietly. Henry placed a hand on his son's shoulder, his voice calm but resolute. "I've faced worse. Let's make sure this ends with something good." As the police car drove off with the group in custody, a few bystanders who had watched the events unfold began to step forward. One man approached Henry, cautiously holding out a roll of paper. "Towels here, sir," he said softly. "Let me help you clean this up." Others followed, some with quiet words of apology for standing by and not intervening. Sooner, a woman with tears in her eyes offered to call a car wash for Henry, but Lucas shook his head. "It's okay," he said. "We'll take care of it." The support from strangers was unexpected but appreciated as Henry wiped the remains of eggshells off the windshield. His mind drifted. The anger and hurt he'd felt earlier began to dissipate, replaced by a growing realization what had happened to him today wasn't unique. Many veterans like him faced prejudice, not only because of their disabilities, but also due to deep-seated biases that lingered in society. Later that evening, as father and son sat together at home, the weight of the day still hung heavy in the air. Lucas finally broke the silence. "Dad, this wasn't just an attack on you, it's about something much bigger. We need to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." Henry glanced at his son, his expression thoughtful. "And how do we do that, Lucas?" he asked, his voice calm but curious. Lucas leaned forward, his determination evident. "We create something, a foundation, to fight against this kind of discrimination, whether it's against veterans, people with disabilities, or anyone treated unfairly. We can offer support, legal aid, and a voice for those who feel voiceless." Henry nodded slowly, the idea taking root in his mind. "It's a big task," he said. "Are you sure we can handle it with you by my side?" Lucas replied with a small smile. "I have no doubt." The next few days were a whirlwind of planning. Lucas reached out to contacts in the legal field, while Henry connected with veteran organizations he worked with in the past. They pulled their resources not for themselves, but to create something lasting, something that would stand for justice and dignity. And so the Carter Foundation was born, a beacon of hope for those who had been wronged, and a testament to what could be achieved through resilience and unity. The Carter Foundation's launch was a quiet but powerful event held in a small community hall. It was attended by veterans, advocates, and a few individuals who had been inspired by Henry and Lucas's story. Henry stood at the podium, his voice steady and filled with conviction. "This foundation isn't just about fighting injustice," he began. "It's about restoring dignity and ensuring that no one has to stand alone in the face of prejudice." Lucas watched his father with pride. Henry's strength and humility had been the cornerstone of the foundation's creation. Now it stood as a testament to their shared vision, a world where justice wasn't a privilege but a right. As the audience applauded, a young woman approached Henry afterward, tears in her eyes. "My father is also a veteran," she said. "He's faced so much discrimination because of his disability. Thank you for doing this." Henry placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "This is for people like him," he said, "and for people like you who care enough to stand by them." That evening, Henry and Lucas sat in the living room, reflecting on how far they'd come. "We turned something terrible into something meaningful," Henry said. Lucas nodded. "And this is just the beginning, Dad." The story of Henry Carter and the Carter Foundation became a symbol of hope and perseverance. It reminded people that even in the face of cruelty, dignity and justice could prevail if we chose to act. Now let us ask you, have you ever witnessed or experienced a situation where someone was judged unfair? How did it make you feel, and what did you do about it? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice might inspire someone to stand up for what's right. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. For more content, please leave your comments and share your experiences. Thank you for being part of Guild Master Stories community. See you soon. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that inspire, challenge, and unite us all.